Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant. Today we are at the next topic, that is Rook versus Pawn. We are going to look at some secrets of Rook versus Pawn positions, and we are going to have very important 5 cases here. So let's get started with the position. This is black to play and black seems to be struggling a bit. So the position is actually black to play and draw. We will see what are the key points in this position. The main reason why white is struggling is because his king is not very well placed and the rook and king, see, they are not ideally placed. Had the king been on g7, things would have been much easier. On the other hand, black's pawn and king are also a bit behind. So let's get to the cases now. What happens? Suppose black plays the most obvious a5. Idea to just collectively advance kb5, a4, kb4, a3, kb3. When generally the rook has to be either given up for the pawn or the rook keeps on giving checks. But the problem here is that white will play rook h5. So what has happened here is the king is got caught or cut off on the 3rd rank. It is not able to reach or cross the 4th rank. And now what will happen? Whenever the pawn advances, let's say a4, king f7, a3, and there is more than gap of 2 squares between king and pawn, the rook would attack the pawn, force the pawn to move ahead, and then the rook sits behind the pawn and the pawn would be lost. And if black never moves the pawn, then king b6, a6 is what he has to do. Then the white king will approach the d5 square and ultimately stop the pawn. So this is the first important case, it being cut on the 3rd rank, the king is not able to help his pawn. Let's say the same thing happens on the 4th rank. This is another very important case. We need to know why this doesn't work for white. The point is, see, after a4, kf7, a3, ke6, a2, now the pawn is about to queen. So in spite of the gap between king and pawn, rook has no time to attack the pawn. If rook attacks the pawn, then the pawn promotes. And if rook stops the queening square of the pawn, then king just approaches kc4, not allowing the king to come closer, ke5, kc3, and next move you can see that there will be kb2. And there is no way white either has to give up the rook for the pawn or just keep on giving checks. So the game would again end in a draw here. Next is another obvious approach. If black tries to play kb5, this seems pretty reasonable. The king and the pawns advance. Let's see what white can do. White will try to get his king as close as possible and then see what happens. So kf7, a5, ke6, kb4, kd5, a4, kd4. We reach a very important position here, and let's see again 2 cases in this. Suppose, see, white has got the opposition here and is looking to use the rook from behind. So after a3 he has a very simple idea, rook b8 check. Now see, king has to come to a4, and then after k3 you can see that pawn is simply stopped. There is the threat of rook a8 as well. Even the move kc4 is very strong, there is mating threat, and after kf5, rook a8, kb6, rook takes the pawn. So of course black will do kb3, not a3. After rook b8, ka2, kc3, a3, kc2, it's instantly losing. And after the move kc2 here, there is again rook a8, forcing kb3, kd3, a3, and now rook b8 check. This is a more precise way for black to play, but even here it's lost. Now king a2, and we see again very 2 important cases. Even with the king on d5 here, white would have won. See, first method here is just play kc2, force him to go ka1 and put him in zugzwang after rook b1 check, ka2, rook b3. The king has to go to a1 and then rook a3 checkmates. And the second technique is, even with the king on c4, also what would have happened? See, after this position, white had always the move kb3. Even with kc2 to kb3, kc3 to b3 or c4 to b3, a2 forced and just the rook moves away. And here we can see even the move rook a8 was winning. And now after kb1, rook h1 mates. This position is very important one. Here, in spite of Black move also, this position is losing for black, because if he queens the pawn, then rook h1 mates, and here if he plays knight check, then there is kc3. After knight check kc3, we will see that, see it's a knight. Let's assume after kc3 the knight gets trapped. After nc2 there is just rook check and the knight is lost. So what is black supposed to do here? Black cuts off the white's king path here and goes with the very important move kc5. See, to reach the b3 square, the king takes 3 moves from all the 3 routes: b5, b4, b3, a5, a4, b3, or c5, c4, b3. But here it will not allow the white king to reach d5. So that is the important move, only move kc5. Still white can try with kf7, a5, ke6, a4, rook a8. This is one of the best chances. kb4, kd5, kb3, kd4, a3, kd3. Again a tricky situation has arisen, and here also black has to be very careful. The move a2 loses after rook b8 check. Allowing this opposition is not a great idea, and now after the move king a3, there is not king c3, but the move kc2, when if black queens the pawn, then rook a8 check and the rook is lost. See, already we have discussed 5 important cases here, which are 5 important positions. We are going to look at one more here. So here it's absolutely important for black to play the move kb2, and after rook b8, finally the important point king c1, the only way to draw the game. Coming till here also black has to be very careful. See, if he goes with the move king a1, then we reach the previous line with kc2, a2, kb3, kb1, rook h8, and now we must just see this line a1, knight check, kc3, the move ka2, which seems to hold, but see, nothing can happen. The knight is simply trapped in a very difficult way. There are many ways actually. Let's look at a simple one. White can do rook h2 check, king a3 almost forced, and now come rook b2. See how the knight is trapped. If the king moves to f4, rook a2 check, king b3 and king c2 just cost the knight. And after the move rook h2, if kb1, then also white can simply wait with his rook. The rook just wastes the move. The knight can't come to c2, knight can't go to b3, and kc1 allows rook g1 checkmate. So these are some of the very important positions, theoretical ones. The end points are very important to remember. So after rook b8 check, the only drawing move is kc1, after which we see that white has nothing much rather than repeating. If rook a8, then kb2, this just repeats. Again rook check, kc1, and if he tries kc3 here, then a2. The simple point this time is there is no time to get the rook to the longer side, because a1 queens with a check. So only move again, see rook a8, and now kb1. Again, either we can allow a1, take rook into a1, or else just go rook b8, kc1, rook a8, and the position repeats. These kind of positions should be repeated or studied maybe after a gap of 1 or 2 months, so that we can test whatever we have learnt, whether we are able to retain that. I hope you are finding these lessons useful and instructive. Do let me know in the comments below. Thanks for your time.